Vov.
Tzadik Vov. Okay.
Tzadik Vov. Vihine.
Vihine, which is how many pages? How many?
About
1, 2, 3, 4.
13 lines from the top.
No, for Tapuach.
No, it's Tapuach. But the line that starts with Chinas.
Yeah.
Okay.
The second line starts with Chinas.
Which one?
Rebbe Rashab.
Ah, ça qui même.
Reish Mem Gimel.
Reish Mem Gimel.
C'est the continue for your father.
Yeah.
It is a continue for your father.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Frenchie, you gotta be quiet.
Hey, Parigo.
This we're continuing talking last week that we said that every creation has a source Lamayla. He's explaining why we say that the world is existence, but not a real existence. Not a Metzis Hamitis. The only true existence is Hashem. That's why we say Amniya violation is they didn't change. Yeah, world, no world. It doesn't change the reality of Hashem. The only existence is only Hashem. So he started saying, what does it mean? Every existence has a source. Explain in detail how every existence has a source. Even the source is beyond comparison, comparing the creation to its source. Still in all, it comes out of its source. He said an example: the lion comes from its source, the Irish Merakova, the lion which is in the chariot of the Kisakovid, and from that, which over there is Bottlum Vutl, totally Bottled Hashem, it's going including the Eibishter. That comes a source to many tens of thousands of levels. Till eventually comes the line down here. So to the animals come from Pnei Shesh Merakova. Fine, I said. Move on. This is understood. If it will be revealed on the creations down here, their source, the way they are up there in the source, commit. For example, the sun down here, if it will be revealed on him, this Shemesh Havaya, Havaya is Shemesh. So if Havaya, the Shemesh of Havaya, which means the bleak full of Hashem, the infinite light of Hashem, would reveal itself to the sun, which is its source. It's its source. Still in all, would become from the sun nothingness. So too, the lion and the ox down here, it would reveal on the lion and the ox down here their source, which is the Chai Shivim Merkava, the Chai Merkava, that means the, how do you say it in English?
The life of the chariot?
Chariot has lions. An ox is also a face of a lion, a face of an ox. It's ruchnis, it's an alakus. So that will be revealed on the down here, on the lion down here, and the ox down here, kamei shem, the way they are there, they will become from them nothingness. Will become like it never existed. And he proves himself. What's the proof that if the source will be revealed on the outcome? The source of this lion would be revealed on the lion, or the source of the sun would be revealed on the sun. It would become nothing. He says, it will be like it never existed. This is very interesting. It's the Lashon. The Rebbe says the Lashon, if the letters of the Dvar Havai would remove itself from the Nivre, from the creation, if it would remove itself from the creation, then the world would become nothing. It would be like just like before creation altogether. Here he's saying in the opposite direction, not that the Dvar Havai will remove himself, rather when the Eibishter, the source, will reveal itself to its outcome, then it will become nothing. And he proves himself, because even by Malachim, if they are sichlim nivdalim, they're intellectual, they're not just intellectual beings, they're sichlim nivdalim. The highest thing in this world is intellect. In intellect gufa, their intellect which are nivdalim, they're removed from mitzias, they have no mitzias, they have no achizah. They don't have a physical brain. They're spiritual.
So how can it be if it's not obviously it's spiritual? Even in spirituality, there's some kind of
emotions, there's intellect. Of course, it's a nivra. I'm not saying it's not a nivra. Of course, because it's a nivra, therefore he's saying I feel malachim sichul know which are a nivra, right? Very good, pointed out, very good. So he says, Om Razal Chazal tell us, Heish Takadosh Baruch Hu Tzpoya Ktara Beinayim V'Sorva. The Eibshter stuck his small pinky between them, and he burnt them. When they had a revelation behind it, which means, what does it mean? The Eibshter giving his pinky between them. That there was a little more revelation, more than what's set to exist, set to be revealed to them. They became nothing. So this is by Malachim. which they are so a whole day they're thinking about the Eibishter, but if there's a little more revelation of Hashem, more than what they could handle, they lose themselves. They become nothing. Which this is spoken about. Malachim had a taina to the Eibishter. Why are you making man? And the Eibishter says, you're making fun of the person. I'll stick my finger between you and you become nothing. You can't handle my revelation. The person in the Neshama could handle the person, could handle the Eibishter. This was an answer to them. It wasn't time of punishment. It was an explanation to them why they're not worthy of existence. On the contrary, the person, the man, has more reason to exist. It says that even Malachim, it is true that they would become nothing. Certainly other creations, if they would have a revelation of Hashem on them, they would lose their existence. It's known, the creation Hoya was, but the Eivish created the world in a way that he had to hide the creator from the creation. The Nivra, a person could go through his whole life, he won't even know that he's a creation. Of course, if he'll think a little bit, he'll realize that he's a creation, but even then, he doesn't know who the creator is. If he would know who the creator is, and he would actually feel the creator, that he's a creation, he wouldn't be able to exist. The creation was in such a way, and that's the only way that he became a yesh. Our whole being is yeshus. I want, I need, I am. That's our whole existence. That's the way they came to existence to begin with. Also now, the Achshav is already created. If the creator would reveal himself to the creation, it will become nothing. It will become nothingness. After it's created already, if the source would reveal himself to the creation, even it's already here, so you would think it's here, it has its right to exist, so no, it would become nothing. So if this is the reality, if someone makes such a cheshbon, he thinks about this and he understands that it makes sense that if the Eibishter, the source of the Nivra would reveal itself to the Nivra, would become nothing. If so, if there's a situation of becoming nothing, since there'll be some difference, some change, the Nivra will lose itself. If so, even now that it is here, it's not a real thing. This is concluding what he started saying, that the Nivra is not a real Metzius. Why? Because since if something changes, he doesn't last, he's not a real thing. If it would be a real thing, he would last no matter what. The fact that he changed, if some change makes him non-existent, that shows that he's not a real thing. Yeah.
So one second. So what's the chiluk between Malachim and Bnei Adam?
There's no chiluk.
He said there's no chiluk. No, why? They had a taina, so he says that only neshamas can handle that.
Neshamas can handle, not any nivra.
Neshama is not a nivra. It's chiluk. Neshama is
also a nivra. That's why it's able to handle it. So a Maimar from there, it came out Chavdal. I don't remember where it is anymore, the Maimar, but I remember when it came out. I remember reading the Maimar. There it says the Mile of the Neshama over Malachim. The Eibush was showing the Malachim that they have an advantage over you Malachim.
Obviously, the Neshama said that the whole thing, but it's
their word when it gets
but the Metzius, if you come to a conclusion or you have too much revelation, so you cannot handle it. Also, the same thing.
But on the Shoma, since it's a it says that Lashon HaMaimir somewhere, some base. It says more than that. It says on the Shoma could go to the highest of levels. Since its mush is very high, that's where it is it. It's not something he's leaving himself to become a higher level. He is the higher level. Every level that you could ever speak about.
So then,
and
what
the
is the whole
could
thing?
realize higher than the Sfiris.
The whole thing is Yerid L'Tzerech Ali is to be in this world to elevate in the Shoma to a higher level, right?
Right. That's another shayla. Now you're asking what's the Tzedek
No, I'm saying.
Aliyah. Now you speak another question.
No,
you're asking what's Tzedek Aliyah if the Neshama comes from the highest of levels. What's Tzedek Aliyah? Because I have them. So Shayla Kol is in Chassidus. So there's an answer. I think if I remember, if I understand it correctly, it says. This is a side, we're going a little side off track, but it says, the Kitzur, it says that the Chiddush is that even when down here, when we're Metzius, we should still attain the highest of levels. Because the Neshama, Lamaila is Lamaila, it's Batal Metzius, it's not a Metzius B'chla. Here we should be a Metzius, and Afal became contained the Eibishter. This is the Chiddush, this is the Yerid Tzedek Aliyah. That's the Aliyah that happens, this is the Maila Bal Tshuva, that the Lamaila, the Neshama was a Tzaddik. Here the Neshama comes down here, and Afal says, yes, still connects with Hashem. that's a chiddush that's going to be Gabi that was before. That's sidetrack. Side when he said when he gave a gufa dinyan over here, I want to say that the neshama, that's when I say the word from the Maamar gufa, he wants to say that if there's a change, we can't handle it. The nivra can't handle it. And he brings a raya, and therefore, since it can't handle it and it loses itself, so it's not a real thing. And more than that, it's not a real thing when it loses itself. Even when it's not, when it's still around, for this point, for this aspect, he was going to bring a raya from Maamar Chazal, that even when it's here and it's lasting and it's existing, it's not a real thing. And he gives a dogma for this and what does it mean? Even when something's around, still it's not a real thing. So he brings a dogma for this. A river which lies, which means it dries up once in 7 years. You can't use it for kiddush mechatas. Kiddush mechatas means to use for, you want to sprinkle the water on the tummy mess. So you need to take the ashes of the paraduma and the water, live water. So what means live? So the Mishnah tells us if it dries up the river once in 7 years, it's not mayim chaim. What does it mean drying up once in 7 years? Why is it so bad? Now it's going with a storm. The Nevim Tamid is constantly storming. Going with a flow. It's not considered a flow. It's not considered live water. Since eventually they're going to stop, even though now they didn't stop yet, so they're possible water. So this is the lesson for us who can make a human count. Same thing we'll understand here to us. Although the world is a metzias, it's here. Just like the water is here. Still, but because when their source will reveal on them from where they were created, they'll become nothingness. Even now that it is here, it's not a real thing. Because it shows that it doesn't last. Sometimes it's going to become nothing. So therefore, even now that it is here, it's also not a real thing. Just like the water, even when it is here, but it's not a real, it's not a live water. Same thing over here without a real mitzvah.
It's disconnected. The water is not there.
But by the water,
the water is actually becoming
we only say that because we know that it happens every 7 years.
Right.
But we don't go and say that any river, because it might happen. That's it.
Right. I hear your question. Yeah.
He's saying because it might happen.
True. But he wants to say because the world is not a real. It's not in any case scenario is gonna last. That shows that it's not a real thing, and not just it's not a real thing when it's gonna become nothing. Even now, when it is here, it's not a real thing. And to prove that point, only this point, he's not saying it's exactly the same thing like Nar Sam Chazvin. That he's going to say soon, the Befrat. That's the Befrat. But the Vayli is just bringing out the point that it could be a Metzias and not a real Metzias. This he brings a raya from Nar Sam Chazvin. I think
that's a limited thing, basically. Anything limited.
Anything limited.
If the water is limited now, it doesn't have a source. It's like a battery. A battery, when it's going to give power, when it's finished, it's finished. Means that
more than that, even when it's around, even when it's working, it's not a real thing. Yeah. So just to prove that point, he brings Nar Sam Chazvin. Now he's going to go off the frat. He's going to take it a step further. That not only it's that you can find a situation of something existing and still it's not a real thing. More than that, the world is actually going to become nothing.
That's more than 7 years.
Oh, but it's 7,000 years. The idea. That doesn't last forever. The question taka is why taka it's more if 8 years is good, why is 8 years good? It's still stopping. On the gather from Vel, the Rebbe speaks about it in the Hadrim and Lamadei. In the gather from Vel, the 7, so that's a Shleimus in Shalom. That's a complete thing. And Mamela, he considered in the gather from Vel, the world, you're not gonna have the whole world is not forever. We'd be stuck looking for Mayim Chaim. The fragile safe goes safe.
Where do you draw the line? Here you have to make a brach on this. It's nothing. This, right? It's nothing.
It's not a mitzvah hamitis. We're not saying it's not a mitzvah. We're saying it's not a mitzvah hamitis. Those are the words from them that this is. You can't any mitzvah hamitis. Agam sheyesh mitzvah. Mekom came. Agam sheyesh mitzvah. Any mitzvah hamitis. Frat, especially shesof kol sofer is battle kol emus bel fazayin shuchat charuv. Especially that the end of everything is what's the end of everything. All the worlds will lose themselves in the 7,000, which is chat charuv. This is very interesting. What's Pshat Chat Charuv? 1,000, the world's going to not exist. That's the way you learn the Pashas, Chat Charuv. You learn the Gemara, Chat Charuv of 1,000 years. We're living the 6,000. Yeah? We're in the 6th. Go on the 7,000, nothing, no world, Chad Charuf. So the question is, why do you call it the Chad Charuf? There's 1,000 years on the clock. Who's timing? If there's no world, what's like 1,000 years Charuf? It's still it's an oxymoron. But the reality is, so the Rebbe says already, Chassidus explains what's Chad Charuf. It's two inyanim in it. First of all, that it's not only that it exists, it's constantly growing. It's growing because time is changed. It's always a change, becoming higher and higher. There's a whole hatten for the Rebbe in Nun Beis, in Chavei Shvat. Came with the Maamar of Shvat. Ve'elam Mishpotim came a hatten over there. The Rebbe speaks about the 7,000 years that they're all going to be on Aliyah, Achra Aliyah. Even though we say that the Yom Shekol Shabbos Menucha L'chayei Lomim, that the 7,000 is Menucha. Still, the Rebbe learns out that Tzaddikim Eila Menucha, and there's going to be, even then, there's going to be Aliyahs, all Arichas. I'm not going in there. But just the idea, what's Chad Charuv? That's what's Taka the Pshat of Chad Charuv? What is the Pshat? Why do they call it Charuv? So it says in another place in Chassidus that the Pnimis HaPirish of Chad Charuv is that the Nivra realizes, that the creation realizes, my whole being is all because the Eibishter makes me. So Mitzad Atzmei, he himself, the Nivra, is nothing. The only being that he has is the Eibishter constantly making him that he should be, that should exist. On his own is nothing. So it's charuv. He's charuv. He loses his mitzias. So, but even in the end, it's just like it's mamash charuv, because it loses its entity. So just like you learn but pashas chat charuv, so even you learn the pnimis the kapirish, they're connected the two. Okay, if so, harei zekemein na'aris hamachaz na'achzul shavashonim. So it's just like the river which dries up once in 7 years. Shagam avov shonim b'neim psulm. Even the 6 years that it's lasting, it's possible can make an eilam. So to the world, even the 6,000 years that the world is standing and it's existent, is not a real being. Because at the end, it's going to lose itself. And now we'll understand what it says in Medrash. Keheles, in the beginning of Medrash, so the 7 times Hevel, that's Shomer Shleim, it says, Hevel Avolam Omer Shleim and Hakel Havel, there's another 2 times it says Hevel, 7 times Hevel. Hevel Avolam Omer Shleim, Hevel Avolam Hakel Havel, whatever, something like that. So it says 7 times the word Hevel. In Neged, Zayin Yimei Bereshis can correspond to the 7 days of creation. Shekoma Shenivra B'Zayin Yimei Bereshis, same Hevel. Whatever was created in the 7 days of creation is Hevel. Why? It's here. It's not here to last. It's here to become ois. Like I said before, even now, it's not an existence. It's not a real thing. Although it's here, but it's not a real thing. It's hevel. Because eventually it's going to become lost. So that's the first biur, why the world is not a real thing, and therefore it's not a stir to Achtzavaya, and the Eibusha doesn't change. Yevel Nishvel. Where there is a world, there is the world. The world's not a real thing. The only real thing is the Eibishter. Because the world, Mitzad Atzmei, doesn't last. Therefore, it's not a real thing. Or before the Wifrat, it's because if the source would reveal itself, then it would lose itself. And therefore, it's not a real thing. If it's a real thing, it wouldn't change, it wouldn't lose itself for anything. Then there's a diuk over here that it says the source will reveal itself. So there's a diuk, it's just a short diuk, that the source will reveal itself. What is the pshat? The source will reveal itself. That even mitzad its source, it doesn't last. Not just a side thing will come and make it extinguish its existence. Mitzad its own being, its source of its existence, if that reveal itself, in other words, it's constantly there's a hiding of the source. It shouldn't be revealed on the thing in order that it should last. But again, it reveals itself. It's ois mitzis, it loses itself. So that shows very strong that the world is not a real mitzvah, and the constant David has to hide it. So in other places it's more eisgetouched. How there's the hell of the hestra of the sherish from the misave, the source has to be hidden from its inhabitants, from the nivra, which comes to existence. That it constantly has to hide itself. There's no every moment is again and again hiding itself in order that the nivra should be able to last. Fine. Tanya also speaks about Agodlan Agiber, how the Eibusha creates the world. And in the same moment, Eibusha has to hide himself, hide the power of creation in order that the world should exist. So it's not a real thing. If it would be a real thing, nothing would be able to break it. Fine. Now he's going to go right in Sifches, which is the beginning to Siftes also. In the first line, he alludes to Siftes. He starts off saying like this: Be'emes Yuvan really will understand Even the world the way it's now, which is a being, which is a yesh, still now it's totally bottled the infinite, the Eibishter himself. And he starts off speaking about the world Lagabi the Dvar Avaya, but he's going to finish off in Siftes how the world's bottled Lagabi Ein Sof Atzmos B'Telim B'Metzius Lagabi Ein Sof Atzmos. But the reason for Simpson is not Kipshute, so the Eibish is everywhere. The essence of the Eibish is everywhere. The Ein Sof Simpson is everywhere. But we're going to go step by step. To understand this, how do we say that the world is bottled B'Metzius Lagabi the Eibish himself? The world was created with 10 utterances, 10 speeches of Eibishter, 10 sayings. The word of Hashem, the world came to exist. The world was created from the Eibishter's speech. Like it says in the Pasuk, so we see that the Eibish created the world by his speech. The Eibishter lowered himself down, spoke, and that's how the world came to be. The whole world is with one Amir, with one Dibur. Yeah. So the world is able to create it. The Eibishter created actually the word Shamar Vayelam. We gave him a tracht and gave him a ganze Welt. Chassidus makes a big deal out of this. How the one Dibur, and this is also just this is also a realization that the Eibishter is much greater than the whole idea of relating to the world. Relating to the world is already a proof that this is not what he's all about. He's much, much greater. As Dibur is creating the world, the Eibush is safe klam nocher. It says in the pasuk, constantly your word that you uttered and you spoke and you said and you made the world exist is nitzo b'shemaim. It's constantly in the world. As everyone knows, the word of Hashem stands constantly in the heavens, to create it, and to make it alive. From non-existence to existence. Constantly, the Eibush is constantly creating the world. Not the world that was here a second ago. With the Rebbe, with the came the chart of the came Chafalf, I think it was. They came to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe, the Farbrengen, said that they were speaking of Farbrengen before the Tzeitzchon Sholom, and everyone was worried. They were looking at the tickets. They're going to make it on time for their flight. So the Rebbe said to him, the plane you're going on, it wasn't created yet. The airport wasn't created yet. You have to, the Eibush has to still create the airport that you're going to use to go back to Eretz Yisrael. I think it was a thing, I'm not sure. In any case, this is the word of the Eilam Avayit V'Chot Nis B'Shamayim, that the Eibush has to constantly create the world and from nothing to something. He's going to explain it more about Riches, this Sif, why you need constantly the Eibush to create the world. It's not here just because the Eibush created a second ago. A second further. Here use the lotion that's always in the world. And if we leave it for a second, it will become nothing. Why is this? Why is this that he can't leave the world for a second? He has to constantly recreate it. Because the creation of the world is not like a man that a craftsman makes a vessel. The vessel is something that's separate. It's not the craftsman. It's something separate, distinct for itself. And it could exist even when it's not next to the craftsman. Even if the woman goes in the street, the vessel he made lasts. But the Eibush is not so. The reason for this is because the craftsman which made the vessel, he made it something from something that existed before he was around. Before the craftsman was around, there was already a yesh. Even before he made it, was already a yesh. Just like before, it's only that before he made the keli, it was a chaymer, it was a galem, it was a piece of metal, a piece of silver or gold. And the craftsman didn't make anything new in it. He only made a form. He didn't add a piece of silver. He didn't make something new. It's the thing that existed before. It's not also dover malay dover. He made something from nothing. Even the tzur it says even the tzur that he makes is already a lulis. There's already a capability for any form to come. Not that he made something new at all. Therefore, it could last even without the worker, even without the craftsman. But the concept of creation of the world, This is a creation of something from nothing. This is something the Eibush made something new which didn't exist before. The yesh, the world, the way it's now, didn't exist in its source. So he says creation of the world is yesh me'ayin, something new which didn't exist before. And he adds a word, he says, the yesh kemeshu ata lahevim keri. The yesh, the way it's now, wasn't in its source. So it's adding a new word. Really, the world existed, not the way it's now, but it existed. So word kemeshu ata. Balzan, he's going to chazik this word. He says, although the worlds were already once existing in the source that creates them, because the Eibush wanted to make a world. When he wanted to make it, he right away got it. Miyad Sholom saying Miyad is Hava, right when he wanted it, right away came to existence. Especially that the Eibush is the source of the creation. So of course, Ein Keichaser Person, everything he wants, everything he has the power to, he right away gets it. So what's the meaning that he has to create it and it has to constantly create it? So he answers, this that a world existed already in its source. Zadach Moshel, this is only like, for example, for
us.
That's why he did it. The way it existed in its source.
From our perspective, I mean.
That what?
For Hashem, it's all the same. Before creation, after creation.
Right.
It's all,
everything's
but
our
from our
perspective.
we see.
The question is what did he make? The Eibush made a world. The Eibush made a world. The Eibush made a world. This is something needs a lot of explanation. It's the state of existence of what it was before the creation to the way it's now. It's all him. It's beautiful. We're going to learn more and more about it to realize that it's really nothing really changed. We're going to come to it, but the Viola we're reading, we're going to have to go up the mountain. You're holding already after that. You're on top of the mountain already. You're there. You see that there's no difference. The world is him. So according to that, what is he saying that the world changed? The world, the Eibush created a world in the 6 days of creation? Something happened? Or nothing happened?
Well, the Torah says, gracious.
So we know that there's no creation.
Because the Torah says,
So the Eibush created the world. So the question is, what happened? What happened in those days? He says, if before the creation, even though the world was included in its source, there's like a person's thought, when he pictures a picture of a rock in his mind, he's order to think about the building that he wants to build. And he pictures in his mind all the details of the building. The length, the width, and the rooms, the chambers, and he pictures in his mind the whole house the way it is. Everyone understands how they add the picture in the mind is only a spiritual picture. The physical rock and the physical building doesn't exist in his mind. Kim Tzir a spiritual picture. What's more of an existence? The spiritual picture or the physical? What's more of an existence? What's more of a thing? So in our world we say physical is more. But reality is it's not so. The physical is here today, tomorrow it's not here forever, right? Spiritual is something lasting. It's a live thing. It's halevdi kazach. The Eibush thinking about our world is a lakus. That's what he's saying over here. Making you the same thing will understand when the worlds were included in that source. This is in spirituality, this is in godliness. The physical world, the yesh of the world, was not included at all. So the Eibush made a new existence that didn't exist at all. But which this is the difference between Ishtal Shil V'Ol, the Bria Shmai. You know, in Chassidus we learn about Ishtal Shil V'Ol, cause and effect, and Bria Shmai. So we say Ishtal Shil V'Ol, when it comes to cause and effect, Harayol, you call it Bilos. Harayol, you call it Bilos Itchila. The Ol was already included first in its Ila. The effect was included in its cause. Ukimei, for example, Seichel Midas, intellect and emotions. Sham Midas Neil Ma Seichel B'Derech Ila V'Ol. Here he gives the simple way we look at things. It's simple. I know it's not so simple, but the way we look at things, that midas come from seichel in a way of ilavol, cause and effect. He explains right away. The existence of the midah was already in the seichel that gave birth to it, so to speak. That was that made it come to exist, revealed it. So the entity of emotion is already in the intellect, in the brain. If you ask any psychologist, they'll tell you this. This is everything's in your head, right? It's called the emotions, which is in the intellect. The miyad right when he understands in his mind that this thing is beneficial for him, right away he wants the thing, he goes after it. And afterwards, after he has this thing of wanting the thing, going after it in his mind, it comes out from the hidden state, the revealed state, until it comes to the emotion in the heart. So the emotion was once included already in the seichel. It's not a new thing. It's already included there. It existed there. It existed the way seichel. It's midas b'seichel. It's not midas b'lev. It's not such a rush of emotion like they have it in the heart, but it's something happening over there. There's already a midas b'seichel. It's not a ischachus. But briyesh me'ayin. The yesh way it's now was totally not in the ayin.
Permit you could say the same thing about the mid, the commercial who
was nicht gewesen. Es kann edler, aber es ist fortamid. It's much closer. They're be'erech one to another. That's the word. This is shalei be'erech and this is be'erech. It's dark because over here you're both saying that once it existed, and here you're saying, but over here you're saying that it existed in a way that relates to what comes out of it. It's nehelam al-gilui. Here it's yesh me'ayin. The yesh me'ayin is also something from nothing, which says it's not me'ayin. In the ayin it existed in the ayin way. Or it's ayin. So it's shalei berach. Therefore I'm going to call it yesh me'ayin. I'm not going to say it's a ischachus, ma'am. I'm not going to say it's not an ischachus. I'm going to be able to call it a ischachus. He says, hey. Therefore, since it didn't exist the way it was in the ayin, gam la'achshen is havo elams. Even after the worlds came to exist, see, it says in the pasuk le'elam avayit b'chnitzah b'shamayim, that the Eibish's word is constantly existing and standing in the heavens. Shakech ha'peil tzogli stomach b'anei, for the power that creates has to constantly be in the creation. Yuvan, this will be understood. What does it mean that the Eibish's power has to constantly be in the creation? This will be understood al derech mosh. From a person, when a person throws a rock upward, you have to say they have to say that a power comes out of the person's hand and surrounds the rock. And this power that comes out of his hand lifts the rock to go upward. When a second passes by, it already falls down, it's going downward. Why is this? This is because the going upward in the rock, this is going against its nature. There's teva menucha, teva kvedus. The Friedrich speaks about this. You're breaking the nature of the rock when you throw it. You're from teva kvedus and teva menucha, you're giving teva kalos and teva tnua to movement and it becomes lighter. I don't know if you actually weigh it in the air if it's going to be lighter. I don't know exactly, but so he says that you're going against its nature of the teva kvedus. The nature of the thing is to fall down. In order to be the ischachus, the renewal of the thing that should go against its nature, and it's only because of the power of the person's hand which surrounds it and carries it. Right when the power of the person's hand finishes, ends, loses itself, it concludes, then it falls down. Now we'll understand the same thing by the Eibishter. Can make a human. We'll soon have to see why is the proof of a person's throwing a rock to the Eibishter creating the world. Maybe the Eibishter creates the world differently. We'll soon see. Can make a human, so too will understand. Being is havas elam siyash me'ayin. When it comes to creating the world something from nothing, this is God. This that the world should exist is a great chiddush. Therefore, you need the power of creation, the power of making, should be constantly in the one that's being made. And if you leave for a moment, if Chaz v'sholem should leave, he would become nothing. Just like the rock. If he stops throwing it, it falls down. So too, if you stop creating, the Eibishter stops creating, just like over there in regard to the throwing of the rock. It needs the power of the person Kech HaZedek. So to here, when it comes to creation of the whole existence of the Yesh of the Elam, it constantly needs the Eibishter should create it. And if not, it ceases to exist. Chaz v'sholem. Why chaz v'shalom? Because it will hepech the kavan of the Rebbe Tachtein b'pashtus. Hashem and Omen just a kli. The Omen makes a keli out of the also v'shum is chachus chulukanav. But the Omen which makes the keli, why does it last even after he doesn't touch it? Is because he didn't make anything new with it. Kanal v'imkein. Now comes the conclusion. Now to the question: what's the raya from Zika 7 to the Eibishter? And now Rebbe Tanya brings the raya from Kriyas Yamsuf. So why over here does he bring the raya? So the raya for the Eibishter conducts himself in such a way that when he wants to make a chiddush, he makes it in such a way that he's constantly there, he's involved in it. We see from Vayel Hashem Yom Ruch Kodem Azah Kol Halayla that the Eibishter made the Kriyas Yamsuf and he made we're constantly putting his keach in the thing. But I guess for us to see it in our world, to see in our Elam, we should see the scene of his chachas needs ständig keach. We see it from Evan. For the Eivish attack, the Alter Rebbe brings in time dafke from Kriyas Yamsuf. For discussion, food for thought. In Cain, also I'll upon him. So he says, therefore, since the main existence of the thing is the light of the Eibishter, which gives it life. In Cain, since what's keeping it alive is only because the Eibishter is constantly making it, this is who it is. It is the keich of the Eibishter. Kamei, for example, he brings it down to detail. Kamei, it's agashmi, physical. They say in Lubavitch, all the chairs, all the tables were bottom of mitzvahs because the Bachman would think about the Eitz Agashmi. Kamei, Eitz Agashmi. This Hab, Mamayim Eitz Pri was created from the saying of the utterance of Eitz Pri. Mamayim Eitz Pri Tzach was Tomid Bo'etz. And the saying of Eitz Pri has to constantly be in the word. V'moyim v'stalkman the Kerega in Isai V'efes. If the Mamayim Eitz Pri would leave the Nivra for a moment, it would become nothing. In Cain Gam Achshuk Shum Mitzis, I call Mitziyus who Hamayim Eitz Pri. If so, since when the Mamayim Eitz Pri would leave, it would become nothing. If so, even now that it is here, what's here? The Mamayim Eitz Pri is here. So that to us, it seems that it is an entity for itself. Because we have flesh cake and we don't see the source which is creating it. But if we would see the source, he's going to say, the Eibishter wanted, we shouldn't see the source. We should come on the mitzvah. We're going to say soon, we see Yud. And that's going to be why there's Scharveinish. But if the eye would be given the permission to see the reality that everything is being constantly created from the Dvar Havai, and if the Dvar Havai would leave, it would become nothing. And if it become nothing means that even now that it's here, who's here? The Dvar Havai is here. We see in everything how it's totally bottled b'mitzis. It's not a mitzis for itself. It's nothing for itself. Who had Dvar Havai? What is it? It's the Eibishter's word. Nothing for itself. It's all the Eibishter's word. It's the Eibishter's word. That's what the thing is. The thing is the Eibishter's word. Because if the Eibishter stops creating it, it won't exist. Why won't it exist? If something that came out of the Eibishter, it exists on its own, separate from the Eibishter or whatever, so then it would have to last. The fact that it doesn't last means that even when it is here, who's here? The Dvar Havai is here. The Eibishter's word is here.
Yeah.